Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have a great guest tonight, Justin Kander. He's been working with cannabis and cancer patients, and he'll be talking about his website and video properties. And we're going to close off with some videos about cannabis and cancer from his YouTube channel. But without further ado, we're going to bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
If you or a loved one need help finding a doctor who can help you get a medical marijuana permit anywhere in this country or consult with a doctor, call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Without further ado, on with the interview with Justin Kander. Thank you and help restore him. Good night. I'd like to introduce Justin Kander, who is the author of a book, Eric Cancer Playbook. And Eric is an acronym. Did you tell our audience what that's an acronym for?
Yes. So the company is Eric Cancer Playbook. Early recognition is critical. So it's a subsidiary of a 501c3 nonprofit. And the Cancer Playbook specifically provides education to cancer patients based on the experiences of other patients who've used cannabis and research.
How did you come into this field, Justin?
So into the field itself, on March 3rd, 2008, I saw the documentary Run from the Cure. And yes, I do remember the specific day. Run from the Cure by Rick Simpson. So it talked about the use of high doses of THC-rich extract to directly treat cancer. And that was extremely compelling to me. So I began looking into it. Seeing if other people were replicating the results besides besides just Rick in the documentary. And I saw that, yeah, so essentially I started collecting cases, collected those into a book, Cannabis for the Treatment of Cancer, and some other stuff, began presenting that at conferences around the world, sharing informally, and then eventually moving on to formal speaking engagements. So essentially just started, with this one documentary and exploded into thousands of cases reported from hundreds of sources. And I've had the great fortune to share a lot of this information around the world.
That's great. I've heard about your speaking engagements. I had the pleasure of meeting Rick Simpson once down in Santiago, Chile, back in 2015.
Wow.
We were both speakers at the Expo Weed event down there. But give us some information you'd make a presentation about. What would you tell an audience? Tell our audience.
I have a very specific. Yes. I have a very specific structure I generally follow, which is starting with the preclinical evidence, so talking and showing a few examples, but referring to the dozens of studies showing how phytocannabinoids kill cancer cells in preclinical models. So there's no controversy about this. It's extremely well established that THC and CBD kill virtually every major type of cancer in preclinical models. So, brain, breast, prostate, pancreatic, colon, gastric, lymphomas and leukemias, melanoma, even rare cancers like cholangiocarcinoma and Kaposi sarcoma, cannabinoids are shown to induce programmed cell death, a process known as apoptosis, in this wide variety of cancer cells, as well as inhibit their reproduction, inhibit blood vessel growth to the tumor, stop the spread of the cancer cells, and even help the immune system clear cancer cells. So, very diverse preclinical results in cells and animals. And in addition to the cellular evidence with the plant cannabinoids, there's a lot of evidence with our own endocannabinoids. So we all have endocannabinoid systems. I'm sure your listeners have heard people talk about that. The network of endocannabinoids like anandamide and 2-AG and the receptors CB1 and CB2 throughout the body. And endocannabinoids, mainly anandamide, are shown to kill many types of cancer cells also by binding to CB1 receptors mostly, which THC is also shown to kill cancer cells by. So we have cannabinoids in our bodies already shown to kill cancer cells through a similar way as THC. So, you would think that it would make sense that taking high doses of the phytocannabinoids would work against cancer, tapping into this inherent network we already have. And that's, what we're seeing in practice. For, the 18 years I've been involved, there's been thousands of patients reporting, in many cases with terminal cancers, significant anti-cancer effects or full remission utilizing high doses. Of course, it doesn't work for everybody, and patients shouldn't forgo conventional therapy. But the bottom line is it's worked for a lot of people. It is working, and there, desperately needs to be access for patients who want to use it now, and more research to formally prove it and help make it work better.
Mm-hmm. So, do you know of any research that's working on that right now?
In terms of new stuff coming out right now that I'm aware, usually I don't know what's in development, it gets published. I'm like, oh, they were working on that, but I didn't know it was coming. But there's a specific trial called the Aristocrat trial, being run by Jazz Pharmaceuticals. So they make Epidiolex, the CBD drug that's approved for epilepsy, and they're running a trial with
pharmaceuticals. Did that used to be GW Pharmaceuticals?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Good clarification
I just
there.
wanted to be certain. I didn't know they changed their name. That shows you I'm not up to date on that. But I did remember
it was back.
Epidiolex.
Yeah, so it was actually back in 2021 there was the acquisition, so it's been
a while.
It's been a bit. So, Jazz inherited both Epidiolex and Sativex, which is approved in the EU for treating MS. And that's the one that has THC. We can't have that. But they're doing the Sativex trials. They did like a phase 1B several years ago, but this is like a phase 2 looking at if it can extend the lives of glioblastoma patients. So that's like the really big thing on the horizon to formally prove some level of anti-cancer effect. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, other than that, I get one thing that I'll say that was pretty interesting. CanMed, this, a huge medical cannabis conference just took place in Lake Tahoe last month. But Professor Mandeep Sachdeva with Florida A&M University, this was, shared brand new preclinical research on the lesser cannabinoids CBG and CBC, cannabichromine. So that's a pretty rare one, but how they synergize to fight pancreatic cancer in cell and animal models. So it's not just THC and CBD, these other cannabinoids matter too. And, that was something that was new and exciting.
In my experience, I've had several patients say that it's CBC that really helps their condition. And it's interesting to see how it works on a previously often fatal cancer if it's discovered late, that pancreatic cancer.
That is super interesting that you've heard that from patients, because most people, most people haven't even heard of CBG, I think, on the whole, but CBC, very few people have heard of that. But that's super cool to hear
if you
that
went
you're,
back to, we've done over 1,200 shows, and I'm sure that we started talking about cannabichromine back about 2007, 2008, just because.
Really? What? We
interviewing people in the field and working with patients already at that point.
That were you, but like, was it even like CBD didn't even really come onto the scene until like 2011 or
Yeah,
12?
but
CBC,
CBC had been discovered, and we talked about that. I often read the newscast to open the show. There's so many other news sources these days. I've forgone that, just made this into an interview show. But I would cover the top news, so I would stay abreast that way.
that's pretty awesome.
So,
That is really cool to
in
know.
terms of your presentations, what other subjects would you talk about with audiences?
It's basically almost exclusively been cannabis and cancer. Although in 2015 at Patients Out of Time, another huge conference, you must know
Oh
of
yeah,
them.
we've been here in Portland.
Yeah. So yes, so I presented there in 2015 about media bias in cannabis reporting, which was really kind of like I couldn't speak fully on cancer, but like at the end I like talked about like cannabis and cancer in the media and like slid in my information about cannabis fighting cancer directly there. Um, but that was pretty good. I also was just on a public access show back in May. It was like all about like the harms of cannabis, and I was the only one there like on the benefit side. So it was like more of an overview about like medical cannabis, rather than just cancer specifically. But that was pretty fun to be able, anytime people present on cannabis, it's usually like a pro cannabis thing. So it was really fun being the lone wolf in that one.
Yeah, that is. It's always good to debate people, especially if you have facts that counter their own. So tell us more about your cannabis playbook. What is the course of action? If I had cancer, which, I mean, we all have some cancer cells that our body's continually fighting all the time, but it's only when they get out of control and our immune system can't tackle that they become noticed, right? So if in your book, if I was to suspect I had a malignant form of cancer, what does the cannabis playbook say is the way to go?
Of course. So it's Cancer Playbook is like the app online for patients. So, and it is designed for people with active cancer. It doesn't really say much for people, using it for prevention, but it basically has research and patient-backed tips about, if you're feeling nauseous or pain or sleep issues, what does the research and patient evidence say about what, cannabis and other integrated protocols help with those symptoms. So it basically draws from our database of research that we've collected and patient reports that are in a different database and combines them essentially to provide patients advice. So anybody can go on, create an account, and put in their information, and then they get fed advice about what to do to help with their symptoms depending on what they're experiencing.
So this is an app for your phone or your other device that
No, it's right now. It's on the
I
web.
see. What's the web
It's
address?
a web app now for the
Yeah.
moment. That'd be pretty cool to make it into an actual legitimate phone app.
Yeah. What is the web address for that?
It's ericcancerplaybook.org.
Well, that's pretty easy to remember. So
Yeah, I know it's that one's longer. Now I
Not too
also have
bad.
my book I have my book Cannabis for the Treatment of Cancer. That has over 200 human cases and analysis of the phytocannabinoid, endocannabinoid studies. That domain's a bit easier, freecannabiscancerbook.com, or I guess still a lot of words there, but yeah, freecannabiscancerbook.com, all free, easy PDF to download. Everything's free that I'm sharing here so far.
You can't beat that. I've been telling patients about Joe Goldstrich's book, The Cannabis Cancer Connection, but it'll be good to point them to another resource as well.
So this is important to point out. His book is there. I think that our books are very complementary because his actually dives far more specifically in how to use cannabis to treat cancer.
And which
specific
components affect different cancers, according to the latest studies when it came out almost 3 years ago. That's still pretty recent.
Yeah, and I would say I helped edit it a bit, and I would say that what's in there is like still accurate to this day. Whereas my book, like features patient cases and the research. So it's not like, how do you treat these cancers? It's what did these patients do and what were the results? And it doesn't go, a lot of the cases, don't have there wasn't massive reported detail about what they did. So, yeah, his book is super great. I love it, and it was a joy to hear that he had been on here.
Yeah. Yeah, we shared a few experiences in the past. If you're interested, you can see it on that show. It was about October of 2024, I think, maybe. But in terms of what are some other things our audience should know about, Justin?
Let's see. I mean, the key thing that I try to say is that there's, a massive amount of human evidence that cannabis directly fights cancer. This has been consistently reported from media, CBS, NBC, ABC, affiliates of these major stations for, near 2 decades now. There's also like around 15 peer-reviewed case reports in PubMed literature, so like real medical journals that doctors submit like actual formal case reports to. So, the highest level of case report, there's like 15 about cannabinoids having direct anti-cancer effects in humans in PubMed. So the level of human evidence is quite significant. One other thing I didn't, there's so much preclinical evidence that doesn't translate to humans. So many things kill cancer cells in cells in animals, but don't work in humans. But there's extra reason to think that it would work in humans because other preclinical evidence has translated. With epilepsy models, they've given chemicals to mice to cause seizures. CBD stops those seizures. It's very simple. But in humans with genetically driven seizures, far more complex what's going on with those. CBD has also been shown to be effective. So we know in, one profound medical case, where no other pharmaceuticals in existence were working against these rare seizures, CBD has been proven to work, which is why Epidiolex got approved. We know it translated, so that at least somewhat raises the likelihood that another preclinical indication would translate, and it's just, more in the evidence bag that these results are translating to people. It just is, it's beyond logic that every single reported case is not, due to cannabis being the cause. It's logically impossible, in my opinion.
So let's go back a little bit. When did you first become interested in cannabis, and talk about your academic background that you brought to bear on this?
Yes, both fun stories. Mainly like getting into it, but like yeah, like many people, I started as a recreational user, thanks to my friend Matt, best friend Matt. We had some really, really good times. He also got to speak to Rick Simpson back in the day. So yeah, he got me involved with it, and then that just naturally led to me looking into, the medical uses. And I have to thank Matt for me being involved in this at all, because he got me involved in a forum called grasscity.com. It's where, people would talk online about cannabis stuff, and that's where I saw Run from the Cure. That's where I saw it on March 3rd, 2008. So that's what got me started. Very specifically, academically, I went to University of Maryland, College Park. Great university. I actually studied marketing, not science, which was good because it gave me the time to do the cannabis stuff. Because if I had studied science, I wouldn't have had the time for this. So it worked out. I did end up, though, in 2023 getting my master's degree in medical cannabis science and therapeutics from University of Maryland School of Pharmacy. So it's a bit more official now. A lot of people had that degree now. There were a bunch of us at CanMed. That was pretty fun. But yeah, so that's the academic background and the very early origin.
I see. I see. You mentioned CanMed. Have you heard of the Cannabis Research Conference?
It sounds
Yeah, there was
familiar.
one here in Portland. I guess they're going to be in San Diego this fall. But I went to the one here in Portland because I'm in Portland. And it was interesting. It was a lot of different concurrent conferences talking about various topics. So I think it must be similar.
Yeah,
But
there's a massive overlap between, medical cannabis conferences. Um, so yeah, it's all, a mixture of overviews, like things you've heard before, but it's always good to review and, new stuff. That's what every conference is. Any conference you go to, you'll hear about, the two endocannabinoids and the CB1 and CB2, told from the ground up. That's how it is, and I like it.
mhm. How did you work with Dr. Joe Goldstridge?
So I was about to move into this one person's house, and Mara Gordon, who founded Aunt Zelda's, was like, "You shouldn't move there. You should move in with me instead." It was very spontaneous.
You lived with Sarah Gordon,
Mara Gordon.
Myra Gordon. Yeah, yeah. I met her a number of times at events in South America.
Oh yeah, she was going down. Was that between 2015 and 2020? You saw her down there?
Yeah, yeah,
I was
exactly.
the
In
one watching her
Colombia,
house.
and
I was watching her house while she was there. I was taking
she's
care of the
often
dogs.
traveling with that Spanish Christine.
Christina
What's her last name?
Sanchez.
Yeah, Sanchez. Right.
Yeah, one
They
of the
were a team.
foremost preclinical researchers. Incredible
Yeah,
person.
yeah. From I think it's Complutense University in Madrid. I think is where she used to
Exactly.
be. Used to
Yeah, so
be.
Dr. Joe, came on shortly after I moved there. So that's, how I was like, I would help schedule the patients who consulted with him and send them the medicines that he recommended.
So this is in California.
Yeah, I was there between 2015 and 2020, living with Mara and Stewart. It was extremely fun in Bodega Bay, so it was like right on the ocean. We made THC and CBD rich, extracts, RSO, FECO type extracts in the syringes, and the infused. Oh, this is interesting though. Do I have the? I got some. Oh yeah, here we go. This is classic, This is the actual extract from like 10 years ago.
Oh
This is
wow.
I still have it.
How does it keep
Interstate
over 10 years?
trafficking. Should I admit that online? Come for
I
me.
don't think anyone cares too much if you're helping sick people, that's a blessing.
Plus,
So,
this is a 4-to-1 anyway. No, it's a high CBD. This is actually mainly CBD. It's not even mainly THC.
well, then it's legal.
Yeah, we would like put on the label like all the you can't really see it, but and yeah,
Yeah.
here's the topical. We made the topical. This was really good for pain.
What is Mara
Um,
Gordon doing now? Is she still doing the her company?
she's doing consulting only. The products got, destroyed by the regulations in California, knocked us out. But doing consulting in Mexico.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I saw her down in Mexico too. But yeah, she gets around, as do I at times. So, what have we not talked about yet, Justin?
I know. I go through like my whole life story and all the evidence so quickly because like, a lot of it is just getting, into like, specific cases and stuff. And specific studies. Like that's the overview, and then you can get into studies, like THC killing liver cancer cells, and they also use like synthetic cannabinoids to shrink the tumors, and they're both working, through, it's how they prove that it works through a receptor, like they'll use a synthetic agonist and an antagonist, so they'll block the receptor, they'll give, THC to an animal with cancer and like block like the CB1 receptors, like, oh, it's not shrinking now, so we know it's working through CB1. So like that's how researchers determine, how it's working. They'll like block receptors and like, oh, they block this receptor and it still works. You're like, okay, that receptor's not involved. So that's just a random, but yeah, it's just more stuff like that. Like it's interesting though.
That's true. That's true. So, what's next on your schedule, Justin? What are you going to be doing, as we're speaking in the summer of 2026? Do you have anything in the near, long term you want to discuss?
Yeah, there are several things. One, I'm actually preparing, and I have a meeting in an hour for it, a webinar for Australian medical like clinicians. I've spoken in Australia 3 times, including this February. It's freaking awesome. I'm feel
Wow.
lucky to go down there and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're a great team and people there. So I'm doing a webinar for them, um, and making more videos on Instagram. I have my Instagram cannabis declaration, talking about studies on cannabis and cancer. So I'm trying to get more followers and views on that. It's a big thing. I'm
So
also
its address on Instagram, it's cannabis what?
at Cannabis Declaration.
Okay,
Um,
the at symbol and then cannabis declaration.
yeah, I guess I should throw this out there real fast, but I also founded an initiative called Cannabis for Cancer Declaration at cannabisdeclaration.com. So I have medical professionals signed on, who agree cannabis fights cancer and patients should access it. So it's just one of my ways to raise awareness and show legitimacy of things. So that's like my Instagram for it.
I see. Well, great. Maybe we'll steer a few people there anyway. So after the Australia webinar, what's on the playbook?
Um, on the playbook, there's
Or just
I
in
guess
the
like more
future?
as we start getting people using it, like refining the functionality because like it just got launched, there'll be refinements and improvements. It's also intended to help collect data on, how people, are working with and like what doses are working for which symptoms, and ultimately over time, anonymously aggregate the data to see, what doses of THC, CBD, and minor cannabinoids are most linked with reducing different symptoms in different patient populations. So this is what I'm pretty excited for, and people listening might potentially be interested. Um, but I'm working a little bit with a company called Vertosa who makes nano-emulsified CBD and CBG. And there's a lot of evidence on that particular combination for helping cancer patients. So I'm trying to find
What
people
does
who
that
want.
mean? Nano emulsified. Nano obviously means very tiny, and
Yeah, so
emulsified, so it's
might
in
as well
oil.
throw. This is super. Yeah, I did a whole presentation on this, and this is interesting for you and for everybody, I think. But this is a new product type that is entering the cannabis market. So it's nano emulsified cannabis products. So they use like special compounds basically to make the THC and cannabinoids much smaller. So when they're not, in a regular extract, the THC is like all globbed up in these huge, droplets, and it takes a long time to digest. That's why, if you heard edibles, sometimes it kicks in 30 minutes, sometimes it takes 2 hours. You've heard of that, of course.
Sure, I've
And that's be
experienced that.
Exactly. Well, that's because of the inconsistent droplet size and the long time to digest. So what nanoemulsification does is chemically change it so the THC bundles are way smaller. And practically it means shorter time to onset. It kicks in faster. It is more predictable and it gets absorbed better. Like some of it gets lost in digestion and it increases the total bioavailability. Um, so yeah, I just did a whole presentation about this at Cannabis. I learned a lot about like just the metabolism of cannabinoids, but essentially it makes it more predictable and more bioavailable. So we want to find patients to use this, with cancer and just see how it works for them, either on the symptoms or if any scans change. So if anybody's listening who has cancer and wants to try the CBD, CBG for free, as long as it's not like a crazy swarm who reaches out, there's some resources to provide this. So
Where would they reach out to?
they can contact me at the hempsolution@gmail.com or info@cannabisdeclaration.com.
So when you say is it the THE hemp solution? Is it spelled out?
Yeah, the hempsolution@gmail.com. I got that in like 2011. Good email, I say.
Yeah, that is a good one.
Yeah, so
So
easy to remember.
what's the name of that company again?
Vertosa?
Vertosa. Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Harold Hahn, he's been speaking and attending, a lot of the latest cannabis science events and, really making a name for the nano emulsification. I've become a believer in it because I had to do a lot of research into it, the studies and stuff, and I'm like, this, nano emulsification is, a great, you know, um progress in the medical cannabis movement. Um, but there's always going to be a need for, conventional products as well. It's not going to replace everything, but it's a nice option.
Yeah, so does it act much more quickly because it's the up, is it up, taken up more quickly or, uh,
Exactly. Yes, it's absorbed more quickly. There's been tons of studies, where they give, regular cannabis products and nano products, and they're taking people's blood and measuring how much cannabinoids are in it, and they're saying, oh, it's absorbed way faster. There's like higher peaks. It's longer. You're getting more of the compound. Like 10 milligrams for 10 milligrams. Like you absorb like 8 milligrams of the nano and maybe, 6 of the non-nano, something rough like that. You just absorb more of it.
it's fascinating. So in terms of the various types of cancer, which cannabinoids affect which cancers? Can you tell our audience anything about that?
Yeah, so in general, there's a massive amount of crossover. Both THC and CBD are shown to kill most types of cancer cells. In practice, the totality of the evidence favors THC-rich approaches. Um, People have generally used THC and THC and CBD rather than CBD alone. Using CBD alone seems less effective than THC and CBD seems to be the best. Um, but tons of people have used THC alone and got success. Relatively fewer people have used CBD alone, dominant protocols, and gotten success. But yeah, in terms of specific cancers, where there's not like specific ratios or doses for specific cancers. It generally, you want to get to high doses of THC and CBD, somewhere between 100 to 300 milligrams of each at least. And, it's extremely individualized. Even after being in this for, 18 years, I can't be like, oh yeah, breast cancer, that's 250, CBD, 150 THC. Like it's just, we're not there yet, and I don't think we ever will be because people are so different. But the key thing is you want to get to high doses, and the most exciting thing is the future is trying to find ways to reduce the THC by increasing like CBG and other cannabinoids. But there's relatively little human experience with it, but it's growing. Like Coach Chella, she's been coming to a lot of conferences. She's like part of the SCC now, Society of Cannabis Clinicians, working with them, seeing a lot of good results with different cancers with high dose CBG and CBD, which is great because high dose THC is not easy. Like, 100 to 300 milligrams per day of THC is not easy to get to. It's what is often needed for cancer at this time, but just the reality.
Rather
But
debilitating at first for patients.
exactly.
They have trouble talking in terms of it's almost like a stroke, but it goes
Yeah.
away after about 18 hours in most cases.
Yes, exactly. It's not nothing permanent, but it's unpleasant, and if we can somehow find a way to do away with the need for that, that would be positive.
But
Um,
patients do acclimate to it after about 5 days on that treatment, right? And then it's not as debilitating. They can talk again.
yes, after yeah, I mean anytime you increase the dose there, is can be an acclimation period, but generally, you start to acclimate, and the increases don't hit so much. But yeah, if you jump right to higher doses, you'll still adjust. So this is an interesting story specifically, but there was a patient in my book who had pancreatic cancer, very aggressive and terminal, jumped right to a gram per day from day one. Day one. So, this is 600 to 800 milligrams THC. So, yeah, he was messed up. He said he was like crying in the shower. It was like days of, disorientation. But by like day 4 or 5, it was like way weaker. And, eventually he like wasn't feeling it, anymore much. So, by like, if you start with a gram per day by, day 7 or 8, you're not going to be feeling it much. It is, the acclimation is amazing.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. It's hard for people to realize that when they're first starting, that they have that big effect, you know.
Yeah, but people get if you start with a couple milligrams and increase by 1 to 5 per day, and you're using CBD as well and doing other supportive strengthening therapies, then you're gonna be in a better place.
Yeah. So what are you doing these days? Are you in California?
No, I'm in Baltimore, Maryland, home of The
Oh, okay.
Wire, Omar,
Uh-huh.
some of the
So
people. But yeah,
doing The
so
Wire?
Baltimore is pretty good.
Uh-huh. Good. No, I haven't spent much time in Baltimore,
Yeah,
but
it's nice.
good, good.
I was yeah. So I other than when I lived with Mara and Stewart from 2015 to 2020, this is where I've been my whole life.
I see. So it's home. Well, that's neat.
Yes.
So is there anything else we should tell our audience here in closing, Justin? Or uh, we actually have more time. We could go on if we had some more topics, but go ahead.
Um, I feel like I feel like this is pretty sufficient. I'm trying to think if there's like my core message just doesn't take that long to like convey. Um, Yeah, the most important thing right now, I've been doing a lot of stuff like try to raise awareness. Like I've bought a lot of sponsorships from things. And I just did a press release actually a couple weeks ago to raise awareness of I also have a YouTube channel, Cannabis for Cancer. I guess that's another thing I can plug. Um, but yeah, so it's just been getting some response, but nothing so huge. So I'm just gonna put a bunch of money into like giving people medicine directly at this point. That's my next big stage. It's like just gonna help the people directly. See what
Great.
happens. Try to collect
Well,
some data, but yeah, I really believe in CBD, CBG, CBC, and the acidic cannabinoids like CBDA and CBGA. I think that this is the future of cannabis medicine and overall wellness. And I'm really excited about the potential of those just for transforming healthcare and, reducing reliance on THC.
what can you say about the difference between the acidic forms, the THCA and the others, as compared to
So
the
one
non-acidic forms?
One thing that's actually really well characterized is there's like a way higher bioavailability of at least I think CBGA as well, but CBDA over CBD. Like you're getting like if you take 1 milligram of CBD versus 1 milligram of CBDA, you're getting way more of that CBDA in you. Like it's like 5 to 10 times more. It's a pretty um stunning number. So you're getting more of it and some. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. My dog was doing stuff, but
Okay.
sorry, what was I just saying? It threw
You
me
were
off.
talking about how CBDA is much
Yeah.
5 to 10 times more
So
effective than
yes, and
CBC.
it's more
No.
bioavailable. So it's more bioavailable, so you're absorbing more. But also there's a with THC and CBDA, there's some studies showing that they're like 100 times more potent for reducing nausea than their neutral CBD THC counterparts. Um,
That's
so
fascinating.
so yeah, more bioavailable, potentially a lot more effective. And I can just say personally, using CBDA gives me like a much greater feeling of wellness than CBD. So that's very subjective, but there's just something about it that just is like way more wholesome. So my favorite way to use cannabis now is actually eating the raw CBDA rich buds. You can just order them online instead of getting oil, you just get the raw flower. It looks exactly like THC weed, but it has CBD and you eat it and there's no psychoactivity, but you're getting the full spectrum of cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids, nothing left behind, and it's just is
No
super
heartburn.
wholesome.
You don't get
No,
heartburn that way, do you?
no, but I can say
Okay.
that for a lot of people that would not be preferred because it doesn't taste the best, and I would think it's worth it. But you can easily blend it into a smoothie and you won't taste it at all.
Right.
If you don't want to taste it, just blend it and you're
Are
fine.
encapsulated.
Yes, that works. And it's a bit of work, but yeah, it definitely works. And is another, there's ways to do it.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on here, Justin. I think we're going to tap your YouTube and stuff to fill out our hour here. We'll talk about that in a moment. But in closing, tell our audience again how they can reach you and your web domains that you want to promote most. And give us the whole list if you can.
Yeah, I'll just lay it all out. So yeah, I currently work for Eric Cancer Playbook at ericcancerplaybook.org. They've been very supportive of me, and we got some good information there. There's also
And what
my
does Eric stand for again?
early recognition is critical.
Okay.
It's a formal 501c3. It's legit. Technically more
Correct.
so I also have Cannabis for Cancer Declaration at cannabisdeclaration.com. It's not a formal nonprofit. I don't, raise any money for that. It's just advocacy initiative. Most importantly though is freecannabiscancerbook.com, because that has all the information, essentially proving that cannabis can fight cancer in at least some cases. So freecannabiscancerbook.com for that. I can be reached at thehempsolution@gmail.com or info@cannabisdeclaration.com. And yeah, there's also the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@cannabisforcancer. Pretty good name there I got.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, so
Well,
and then Instagram, Cannabis Declaration. I'm
all
really
right.
trying everything I can, like literally for 18 years. I've just been trying whatever I can. I'll say one more thing that's funny though, is that like in 2009, like 2008 going into 2009, I'm like 17, and like my friend Matt, he's like, passed out drunk from New Year's. I wasn't drinking at all, but I was like on like Grass City early in the morning, January 1st, 2009. I'm like, this is the year it's going to be legal throughout the world. Like it's going to change the world. And I was way off, but like I've been promoting this for a while, and
Back in
believing
back
in
in
it.
1980, we thought marijuana will definitely be legal in 5 years. Jimmy Carter was president. We didn't know Ronald Reagan was going to turn the clock back on us, but that's
I
a
know
bunch
that
of other
man
stories.
in the 70s when he's like cannabis should be decriminalized, and like the whole like you think that it's like in that, oh man, that's like you think it's about to like turn so hard, and you say you bet to get set back decades. Like
It was the winner of our discontent for certain. Well, anyway, I really appreciate you coming on, Justin. Keep up the good work. Reach out if I can be of any assistance, or you're up here in this part of the world. And otherwise, keep working to restore hemp. Thank you.
I will. Thank you so much.
Most people readily accept that cannabis can help treat symptoms related to cancer or the side effects of conventional treatments. It is well understood that cannabis improves appetite, reduces nausea and vomiting, mitigates pain, and facilitates sleep. But there is a far greater resistance to the notion that cannabis can produce direct anti-cancer effects in humans. This resistance is completely understandable, and frankly, the proper initial reaction to have. It's bold to claim that anything not FDA approved can fight cancer. Conventional treatments, like chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, or immunotherapy, have undergone extensive double-blind, placebo-controlled trials to prove their safety and efficacy. In addition to these conventional treatments, many alternative interventions exist, including other herbs, foods, machines, or even spiritually based treatments. When patients forego FDA-approved approaches for alternative treatments that don't work, they may die where otherwise they would have survived. Therefore, it's completely reasonable to be skeptical of anything outside the mainstream. However, I'm here to tell you that cannabis is special, and by the end of this video, you'll at least agree it deserves to be researched more intensely. Before starting, I must be clear that it is not advisable for any patient to skip conventional treatment and use cannabis instead. Despite the strength of the evidence, there is no way at this time to know who will respond to cannabis therapy. It's not perfect and doesn't work for everyone. Thankfully, evidence suggests cannabis can be safely integrated with conventional treatments and potentially even make them work better. The only exception is with immunotherapy, where evidence indicates cannabis may impair its effectiveness. In patients who are using immunotherapy, the general consensus is for patients to not use cannabis, or at least use it at the lowest possible doses for symptomatic relief, unless the immunotherapy proves ineffective on its own. Cannabis is composed of hundreds of compounds, the primary therapeutic ones being cannabinoids, terpenes, and flavonoids. These three classes of compounds have been shown to kill cancer cells in preclinical studies, although the focus of this video is on cannabinoids. The most studied plant cannabinoids, called phytocannabinoids, are tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol. Both have been consistently demonstrated to directly kill or inhibit virtually every type of cancer cell they've been tested against, including brain, bone, breast, cervical, colorectal, prostate, pancreatic, liver, gastric, ovarian, and skin cancer cells, as well as rarer forms like cholangiocarcinoma, rhabdomyosarcoma, and Kaposi sarcoma. In many, but not all, of these studies, the cannabinoids have demonstrated selective action, only killing the cancer cells while leaving healthy cells alone. Beyond cells, many animal models with mice and rats have demonstrated that cannabinoids shrink experimentally generated tumors, including these examples: glioma brain tumors, bone cancer osteosarcoma, breast cancer, cholangiocarcinoma, gastric cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, pancreatic cancer, and melanoma skin cancer. Many people would stop here and consider this all a compelling argument. However, none of this is actually all that impressive in isolation, as lots of natural compounds kill cancer cells, even selectively, and shrink tumors in animals. The first major point that sets phytocannabinoids apart is the fact that endogenous cannabinoids, produced by all mammals and known as endocannabinoids, also kill or inhibit cancer cells through similar mechanisms as the phytocannabinoids. These endocannabinoids bind with cannabinoid receptors on the surface of cells throughout the entire body to produce physiological effects largely related to the maintenance of homeostasis, or internal balance. CB1 receptors are found primarily in the central nervous system, while CB2 receptors are predominantly in the immune system, but one or both receptor types are found in most major organs. For example, CB1 receptors in the brain help regulate neurotransmission, primarily by inhibiting excessive stimulation of neurons, while CB2 receptors help prevent inflammation from getting out of control. Many studies demonstrate that THC and CBD kill cancer cells by activating CB1 and/or CB2 receptors, as well as other receptors like TRPV1 and PPAR-gamma. Anandamide has also been shown to kill numerous types of cancer cells in the same ways, primarily via CB1 and TRPV1 activation. More so, many types of cancer cells express higher levels of cannabinoid receptors than their healthy counterparts. Researchers have posited that this is a potential self-defense mechanism against cancer development. If a healthy cell becomes cancerous, it expresses more cannabinoid receptors to make itself more susceptible to the effects of anandamide, allowing itself to be killed for the good of the organism. If this is the case, it makes sense that phytocannabinoids would be quite an effective cancer treatment, since they would be tapping into an inherent cancer defense system we already have. For example, in pancreatic cancer, researchers stated, cannabinoid receptors are known to be expressed in pancreatic cells, with a higher expression reported in pancreatic cancer patients. Therefore, pharmacological targeting of the endocannabinoid system might offer therapeutic benefits in pancreatic cancer. While clinical trials are limited, one double-blind, placebo-controlled trial with glioblastoma patients found those treated with THC and CBD, along with chemotherapy, had median survival of 21.8 months, compared to 12.1 months in the placebo group that only received chemotherapy. It is unlikely this level of life extension could be achieved only from symptom relief, and anti-cancer effects probably played some role. Other preclinical evidence for conditions besides cancer has translated radically well to humans. For example, many studies with cells in animals suggested CBD could reduce seizures, including the one here. By 2017, CBD's anti-seizure effects were formally proven to work in real patients, and the pharmaceutical CBD formula Epidiolex was soon approved by the FDA and placed in Schedule 5 of the Controlled Substances Act, the least restrictive category. The preclinical studies mainly used chemically driven seizures, which are far less complex than the genetic defect-associated seizures Epidiolex is prescribed for. Therefore, the preclinical evidence for CBD in epilepsy translated to humans better than the evidence indicated. This translational success bolsters the case for preclinical cancer effects working in humans as well. Another reasonable concern is how cannabis could possibly be effective against numerous cancer types. As noted, dozens of preclinical studies with cells and animals show that cannabinoids, not to mention terpenes and flavonoids, kill or inhibit most major cancer types. Different receptors may be targeted in disparate cancer types, including CB1, CB2, TRPV1, TRPM8, PPAR-gamma, and GPR55 receptors. The downstream effects of receptor activation generally relate to chemical signaling pathways that lead to impaired reproduction of cancer cells and cell suicide, known as apoptosis. Real-world evidence, case studies, and media-reported human evidence are also quite compelling. There are hundreds of public cases reported on news websites, social media groups, and local affiliates of stations like ABC, CBS, NBC, BBC, and Fox. In many of these cases, THC-rich and/or CBD-rich extracts were associated with remissions from terminally diagnosed cancers, such as Rhonda Gossett, Ray Jennings, Cecilia von Hars, Taylor Raymeyer, and Joy Smith. Case reports published in journals hosted on PubMed also show evidence of anti-cancer effects in humans. For example, a case of basal cell carcinoma from Dr. Franjo Grotenherman, treated with THC extract as the sole therapy. Lung cancer, treated with CBD oil as the sole therapy. Squamous cell carcinoma, with reversal of a rapidly growing tumor once topical administration of THC CBD oil started. Leukemia, treated solely with THC-rich extract after conventional therapy failed. And another squamous cell carcinoma, treated solely with CBD oil. The chance that every anti-cancer response is not at all due to cannabis, despite the unusually supportive scientific and logical evidence, is simply impossible. There is no doubt cannabis can fight cancer in at least some cases. However, as noted in the introduction, cannabis does not work for everyone, conventional therapy should not be skipped, and there is still so much more to learn. It's also almost certain that some anti-cancer effects attributed to cannabis really were actually caused by other factors. Nonetheless, current evidence more than justifies global access to cannabis medicine for all cancer patients. We also need more research to determine optimal protocols for different cancer types, as well as the full range of benefits and potential adverse effects. In summary, plant cannabinoids like THC and CBD, along with endocannabinoids like anandamide, kill cancer cells through similar mechanisms. Many cancer cells express higher levels of cannabinoid receptors than healthy counterparts, with researchers suggesting this may make them more susceptible to anti-cancer effects of endocannabinoids. A double-blind, placebo-controlled trial showed THC and CBD extended the lives of glioblastoma patients, suggesting a direct anti-cancer effect. Other preclinical evidence with cells in animals, such as CBD treating epilepsy, has translated radically well to humans. Positive reports of cannabis producing anti-cancer effects in humans have been reported in mainstream and social media for the past over 15 years. Positive case reports have been published in peer-reviewed journals demonstrating direct anti-cancer effects. It is imperative that more people learn of the uniquely strong support for cannabis as a cancer treatment, so please share this video with anyone you can. If you want to see more, dozens of scientific articles and over 200 human cases are summarized at freecannabiscancerbook.com. The evidence speaks for itself. Brain tumors are among the most deadly forms of cancer and, along with related spinal cord tumors, are responsible for nearly 19,000 deaths per year in the United States. Emerging research shows that cannabinoids from the cannabis plant, primarily THC, CBD, and CBG, could act as groundbreaking new therapies for treating various forms of brain cancer. In 1998, the first study showing THC could fight glioma brain tumors was published by researchers in Spain. THC induced a form of cell death called apoptosis in the glioma cells, causing them to neatly break down and die. In 2004, the same team showed that THC could reduce the formation of new blood vessels, known as angiogenesis, to tumors, limiting their growth in a different way. Quite importantly, the team showed that injection of THC into the tumors of real patients also had an anti-angiogenic effect, showing that the research could translate to humans. Concurrently, Italian researchers looking at the effects of CBD found that it could also kill glioma cells and inhibit their proliferation. In mice, CBD was proven to shrink tumors. While both THC and CBD can kill glioma cells on their own, research suggests that they work better when combined. A 2010 study from California researchers tested THC and CBD alone and together, finding their combined effects created a synergistic effect. The charts demonstrated that while THC and CBD both worked, their combination led to a radical reduction in living cancer cells. While animal research is great, what really matters is how cannabinoids work in humans. While research is limited, there is a double-blind, placebo-controlled trial showing that the combination of THC and CBD with chemotherapy can significantly extend the lives of glioblastoma patients. Glioblastoma is the most aggressive and deadly glioma form. With a maximum dose of just 32.4 milligrams THC and 30 milligrams CBD per day, patients in the cannabinoid treatment group showed an 83.3% survival rate, compared to 44.4% in the placebo group. At 2 years, survival was 50% in the treatment group and 22% in the placebo group. Median overall survival was 21.8 months in the treatment group and 12.1 months in the placebo group. Altogether, this evidence shows that cannabinoids really can make a difference in the survival of glioblastoma patients. Larger scale trials with higher doses are desperately needed to further demonstrate the anti-cancer properties of cannabinoids.